Miss Betty says, bless your heart.
Miss Betty says, I like it.
Oh, man.
Who's Miss Betty and what's that to do with redemption?
What? Miss Betty plays redemption?
Maybe we should go introduce her.
Dude.
You need to go back and tell her how much you appreciate that weight set. And then you need to introduce her.
That weight set changed my life. She's going to be like, well, you're still fat. It wasn't because of its usefulness, ma'am. She's like, well, I can see not. What's up, Redemption? How you doing? John Hendricks here, as always, for a brand new episode of the Threshing Floor Podcast. We've got my buddy Brad back in studio today, and we're going to be talking with him kind of about his busy week. We spent the first part of this episode talking about his youth ministry and working on fundraising through that yard sale that he's been working on. A couple of stories in there, introduce you to Miss Betty, and then we touch on the recent news and things that we didn't get to touch last week. We'll go over all that. Glad you're here, and we'll get right into it. All right, guys, welcome into a brand new episode of the Threshing Floor Podcast. John Hendricks here, as always, and we've got the co-host back this week. How you doing, Brad?
Feeling good, as always. Ready to talk redemption.
Man, I bet you're ready to talk redemption. I know that you've had a pretty busy week. We were kind of talking about it before we started recording here, but just to put in context that I know that we have multiple youth pastors within the community, and I'm sure that they all probably have some kind of fundraising work that goes in during the summer months to raise money for camps or for missions, that type of thing. So I bet your struggle is one that is shared by other people within the community, but man, how crazy is it trying to wrangle up items and then sell them for a yard sale to raise money? Like, how much work did you put into that thing?
Well, where do we start? Our yard sale is like our big fundraiser for the year, and it's as fun as it sounds. It's not fun at all until the day of, and then it's a little fun. But literally for like a whole month, the month of May, we are taking our van and trailer and going and picking up kids to go and pick up stuff that people donate and going and storing that stuff, and then eventually pulling it out and having to sort through clothes and sort through shoes and sort through all kinds of stuff, the week of, because it's at a church, so we have to like wait until all the services are over and all the programs and all that stuff. So it's a lot of work, lots and lots and lots of work. I mean, we probably sell, this is not an exaggeration, but we probably sell a couple thousand items. And then we have a couple thousand left over. So
it's the leftover items that hurt, don't they? Because then you have to do something with them.
Hey, every year we order a truck from the thrift store, and that truck comes and we load that thing up, slam full from top to bottom, and we send them on their way, and we're good. But every year I say, I'm never doing this again, because it literally takes all my time. It's night and day. But every year, without fail, we make enough money that every single student that wants to go to youth camp gets fully covered to be able to go. So it's one of them things that if I could find a way to make that much money, I would.
But as long as you keep having those results, it's hard to pass it up, huh?
Yeah, every year I'm kind of like, I wonder if we did bad this year. Like, if we did bad, I could justify not doing this again. But then we always do really well, so.
Well, a long time ago, I believe it was done over in the field on the other side of the church, and there was a huge tent. So at least you don't have to put a huge tent up and take it down. So you do get to lose some of that workload.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do that. But it's insane, man. We get people like it's a thing now. Like the community knows about it because we do it every year. We do it at the same time every year. And day of, we start at 8, but we start having people line up at 7 o'clock for a yard sale. It's that big. But we have a lot of people donate. We pick up a lot of stuff from University of Alabama. They donate from their fraternities and sororities a ton of furniture, and they're all rich, so they got like really nice stuff, and they just leave it. They when they get here, they're coming from California, Oregon, New York, wherever. They buy a bunch of furniture down here, and then they don't have a way to take it home, so they just leave it.
I guess, the timing of it always being in May kind of works out because that's when students are leaving. And hey, I don't have anything to do with this. You're taking donations. Great. Where can I tell you to come pick this up at?
Yep. And
where do you want to meet?
We have a few connections with the Greek life there, so they know that we do that every year. So they tell their kids like, hey, if you don't want to have to deal with this, just leave it. Sometimes obviously we get some pretty junky stuff that we know won't sell, or we just have to throw it away or whatever. But and a lot of that stuff, man, we have to haul up and down 3 flights of stairs, like beds and dressers and desks and all this stuff going up and down these stairs, no elevator. It's a process, man. It takes hours. There's a couple of nights, we'll get up at like 6 o'clock, and I'll be dropping kids off around like 11:30, 12 at night as we get done. So, but like I said, our kids really need the help. So some of the good, there's a lot of good that comes out of yard sales that I try to look at as well. Like, the students work for their money. We don't just like give them money. And if they don't work the yard sale, then they don't get money for camp. It's just as simple as that. But also, like, people in general, they just hang on to stuff, and they need an outlet to get rid of stuff sometimes.
Are you saying that hoarders?
Yes. Like, they've been wanting to get rid of stuff. They just don't know. Either they don't have somebody that can help them get rid of it, like physically pick it up, or like they don't have a good cause to give it to. But like we provide both of those. We'll come get stuff. It's going towards them raising money for camp. And so it frees them of stuff, and we get to sell stuff really cheap for the most part. So people who really need the stuff, like need a bed, need a mattress, need
a guitar
whatever.
amp.
Need a guitar amp. There you go. We're able to get it to people in the community, and a ton of people in the community come to our church, so we get to meet them. It's a ministry opportunity there. So there's a lot of good, man, that does come from it. And that's what I have to remind myself, because if those things weren't available, I'd have been done, said, hey, let's quit this thing. It's way too much work.
You should have taken that old shoebox of IJ cards that we have there at the church, built you a few starter decks, and put those on the yard sale. Be like, hey, what's this card game? Let me tell you about it. Come on, you missed the opportunity, bro.
What I should have had is you and Jeremy come down and
run a booth.
Yeah, run a booth, or been playing games. Like, just set up a tent. People could walk by like, man, what's going on?
Dude, I'm gonna have to put that back in the safe to remember for next year.
For sure.
But let me ask you this, because I spent about a year doing youth ministry at our old church, and it was a labor of love, if you will. There was a lot of work involved in it. And it's crazy because if you have a big youth group, a lot of times you find it more sustainable, like self-sustainable. The smaller your youth group is, within reason. Like if it's 2 or 3 kids, if that's what you're talking about, it's easier to manage that. But if you have like a small, like, I don't know, 8 to 12 to 14 consistent students, it feels like there's a lot more work involved in that than if you like had a larger number. So like you're wanting to work the yard sale. If a handful of those kids are not available for that day, you're really hurting if you have 8 to 12 students, and all that extra work falls on you as an individual. The more students, it kind of helps you spread the workload out. But have you ever had one of those I'm not trying to bash anybody that donates things to a yard sale, but if you had one of those stories, you know what I'm about to ask you, where somebody builds something up and they're like, I've got this, it's in my garage, it's been sitting there for years, you can get it, you can make a lot of money off of it, and you show up to get it, and it is trashed out, and you're like, this is going straight in the dumpster. There's no value here, but you've already agreed to take it, and you show up, and you've been bamboozled. Have you had one of those stories?
Well, yeah, we have a lot of those actually, but it's not so much people are hyping the stuff up. It's just like, again, and I'm trying not to stereotype here, but some of the older people, they just think they have a different way of thinking about stuff. So like, they're like, oh man, somebody might want this science textbook from 1978. It still has some really good stuff in it. And all my nursing stuff from 50 years ago or whatever. And they got all these books and boxes. And it's kind of like, yeah, this will sell at the yard sale. And I'm kind of like, no, nobody's coming to a yard sale for this. But the most hilarious thing is what people will buy at yard sales. Because you just really never know.
Okay. And I saw you sit up in your chair. So there's a story. Yeah. Let's go.
No, I mean, like, every year there's items that we're like, there's no way this item's going to sell. Like, it's so ugly, it's out of shape, it's whatever. And without fail, man, every time we have an item like that, it always sells. And we're just like, I can't believe it. I remember last year, I had this huge box that we had put a bunch of like in our youth building, we do that. We set up beds. Which, by the way, I didn't know people bought used mattresses and stuff. They do. Mattresses, box springs, bed frames, it doesn't matter. So we sell those. We usually have about 4 or 5 beds like that. But we also have a lot of bedding and pillows and all that stuff. Well, anyways, we set up this box.
Bed bug free, by the way. Bed bug free.
I can't guarantee that, actually. But
Brad, you have to. Come on, man.
We don't check for that stuff, man. We throw that stuff out there, and if it
you
sells,
sell the bed
sells.
bugs for pets.
I feel bad for some of that stuff, man. I sold a desk. You're getting me off topic here, but we sold a desk that had glass sides. It was actually a cool looking desk, but it had gotten rained on, and on one of the sides in between the glass and the actual desk, it was moldy. It was green mold. All right, and I told this lady, like,
she bought it, didn't she?
Hey, there is this here, and like, it's hard to, like, you can't really clean it, like, unless you take it apart, and it's very hard to take apart. She was sitting there staring at it, and I had like $40 on the desk too. It's probably overpriced, but I said, for $50 I'll deliver it to your house. And she was looking at it, she was like, all right, cool.
I bet.
But anyway,
wheeling and dealing.
Dude, that's what it is, man. I tell everybody on my team, I said, if somebody's looking at something, like they want it, they're leaving with that item. I don't care how much you sell it for. You talk them down to, we getting rid of as much stuff as we can. But anyways, box story. It's not that interesting, but it's kind of funny. So we threw all of our, I told the students, I said, man, all this bedding that people are giving us, a lot of it's ripped. It's got stains on it. Like, who wants bedding with a bunch of stains and stuff? I mean, that's just nasty. Some of that stuff hadn't been washed, it stunk, whatever. So we had this box, and we threw it all in this box.
I love how open you are about it. Like, it stunk. Nobody wants it. Throw in the box, put a price on it.
Yeah, we were going to throw it away. We were going to throw it in the dumpster. No, we didn't put a price on it. This was dumpster stuff. But we needed, like, somebody was like, hey, we can prop this door open to our youth building with the box, you know, because we just needed some way to prop the door open so people come in and out. Well, man, people were coming in the door, but they saw that box there, and they started going through that stuff and buying it. The stuff that we were planning on, like, throwing out, nasty, stained-up stuff, they were buying the sheets and stuff. I couldn't believe it.
Well, maybe they were going to use it for, like, pets or something, pet bedding. Who knows?
We had perfectly good bedding inside the youth building. And plenty of it.
They were getting that half-price stuff out the door.
Dude, I was like, yeah, some of that stuff, I'm like, man, just take it, honestly.
Well, I remember having to get some help because at the time I did not have a pickup truck. And Thankfully I have one now, because it's hard to do anything. It's hard to do anything if you're involved with youth ministry, to where you're doing stuff like this and not have your own way to go and get stuff. A church van is useful to a degree, but like even if you take the seats out, like you're limited on some of the things you can haul. It's much easier to have a pickup truck. But so I ended up having to wait for a couple of weeks while we're building up and gathering things for the yard sale that we did when I was involved in youth ministry at our old church. And much smaller church, much smaller yard sale. So getting premium type items were not as easily obtainable. So I had this lady at church, and I'll just tell you her first name. I don't think anybody's going to put it together, but her name was Miss Betty, and old sweet Miss Betty, and love her to death. She was like, my son, you had a full weight set. He had a full weight set at home, and the weight set's just been out there on the back porch. It's got the cover over it, so it's not getting rained on. It's full weights, all the weights that go with them. You got the bar, you got the bench. Just come get them. He got heart condition. He can't work out no more. Come get him. All right, Miss Betty. Thank you for that. Let me see if I can wrangle up some help. And then that first week didn't happen. The next week she's like, now you want this weight set. I'm telling you, you're going to be able to make a lot of good money off of this weight set for the yard sale. I want to support these students. So, see them go to camp and stuff. And I was like, all right, Miss Betty, I got you. And so me and my buddy Cody, I finally got him to go and help me get this set. And actually, Cody had gone to church with us at this church, and he was actually working for me at the time at the warehouse. And this was way back, like the first building that we were in, and we're in our third building now. So like a lot has changed. But we were slow during the day, and I was like, hey, you want to go to Miss Betty's and go ahead and get that weight set and take it to the church? He's like, yeah. And we drive up to her house. I hadn't been to her house before, and I can just tell the where we live, it's like or where she lived, it was like a garden home. So it was like a small house, and I was like, okay, there's no way she's got a full-on, like what she's built up, a full-on gym set of weights and workout gear on the back porch. There's no way all of that's here. And we go in, hey, how you doing? She's like, it's right through here. Come on. And we walk all the way through her house to the back porch. And it's this like weathered, she said it hadn't been in the rain, but it was sun faded. It was cracked. It was like this really cheap bench, and it was concrete weights, like old school concrete weights. One of the weights was broken in half. And as we're gathering, like at that point, like I feel like we're committed. I can't just be like, no, Miss Betty, I don't want your stuff. But she was talking about like, you'd probably be able to get $300-$400 out of this easy. And I'm like, as I'm looking at it, I'm like, I might have to pay somebody $50 to take it. I mean, it was rough. And it was like the cheap bar that has like the like, like the plastic film over like the thin metal. So it wasn't even like a solid bar. And I was just like, what have I gotten myself into? And it made me rethink all of the volunteer hours I had put into this youth ministry. But I was like, I'll keep doing it, Lord. I got you. And we carried this out and we set it up. And I believe we got it back to the church. We put it in storage, and like we had a storage building out back. And the day of the yard sale, we ended up bringing it out, and I believe the bar bent, like because it was that thin metal I was talking about, and it had weights on it. And my buddy Cody he was helping at the yard sale or whatever, picks up the bar like in the middle. He's like, I can lift this up with one hand. Just trying to showboat. He had, for a small college here in town, Stillman. He played there, and he was a offensive lineman. So he was trying to show off, I guess. And he picked the bar up in the middle, and the thing bent. And now we've got a weight set with concrete weights. One of them's broken in half, and the bar is now bent. And it's kind of like one of those cheap brooms. Like once you bend that bar back, you try to bend it back the other way, and it pinches the metal. And now the metal's about to break. Dude, it was it was rough. And so every time I hear, "Hey, we're going to pick up stuff for a yard sale," I I I fully feel the pain that you may endure at the end of that trip. So, Lord bless Miss Betty, but Miss Betty was lying.
Man. Well, let me start off by saying I'll give you an 8.5 out of 10 for the accent, Miss Betty. That was pretty good. Secondly, man, she played y'all. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew exactly what she was doing. Absolutely. She said, "Man, I need somebody to get this weight set out of here, and I'm gonna hype it up like it's $300-400. Knowing good and well, she knows how much that costs. That weight, them concrete weight sets don't cost like $120 brand new."
You know what's crazy though? We ended up selling not the full weight set. I don't think we ended up selling the bench or what was left of the bar, but I believe we sold some of the concrete weights. Not because someone was wanting to use them. They were like, "I just need something to weigh something down." I forget what it was, but they were like, "I can just use it for dead weight." I was like, "Yep, that sounds about right." And I think we might have made like $10-15 off of the whole thing. Like I really don't think the bench sold at all, and I know the bar didn't.
So you almost made your gas money back.
Almost made the gas money back. But I had paid for lunch for Cody to go help me. I was like, I'll buy you lunch. Stopped at a burger joint and got, quick food. It was this burger place in town called Otis and Clyde's Burger Shack. I mean, they were proud of their stuff. It was like $15 for the meal. So I'm really out $30 there. So I don't think I actually broke even.
Miss Betty came out ahead though.
Miss Betty did come out ahead. Lord bless her.
Speaking of that, man, my students duped me a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. So we always, because it takes so long whenever we do this stuff, like we go pick up a lot of stuff. So when they come with me, it usually takes about 4 hours or something. By the time we load up, we got a trailer and everything, and we're loading it slam full or whatever. So, and sometimes we make multiple trips or whatever. So this one night, recently, it was like last week, I think, or maybe the week before. No, it was last week. My students were like, "Hey," like they've been working hard. Like we've been going up and down stairs, furniture, blah blah blah. And I was like, "Man, where y'all want to eat?" And I was thinking in my mind, like, "Yeah, we could do something a little bit better."
That is the worst thing to ask youth students.
Yeah. And they said, "Hey, let's go to this place. It's called, I want to say it's called OEC. Or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a Japanese place. Yeah. I'd never even heard of it. And I was like, "How much does it cost?" They're like, "Oh man, you can get a plate for like $6-7." I was like,
about $16.
I was like, I've been to like some, because it's an express restaurant, a Japanese express. It's not one that they cook in front of you. I said, "They don't cook in front of you, do they?" They're like, no. You just pick it up to go.
That's how you figure it out. Do they actually show you what they're cooking?
Yeah. So I'm like, man, well, $6-7, like, shoot, we can make this happen. Yeah.
It wasn't no City Cafe, was it?
It was no City Cafe, man. It was, I think the cheapest thing, because it was at night too. So like the lunch prices, the cheapest thing on the lunch menu may have been $7. But the regular just chicken with rice, teriyaki, everybody got teriyaki chicken with rice, a drink, and an egg roll. Because whatever. And I had like 10 people with me. Okay. So, yes. I definitely paid over $100. I think I paid $115 for that meal.
Makes you want to go back to the $5 pizza, Little Caesars.
Man, I tell you what, I was like, "Well, guys, I hope you're enjoying this." We ain't coming back here.
Man, they might not have known, but I think them and Betty they got the same wavelength going on.
It's crazy, but this year I was like, we worked so hard this year, and I was just so tired, and we just, I took them out a lot. I actually, you want to guess how much I spent on food this month on students? Because I added it all up.
$645.
Shoot, boy, where do you think we going?
You said this whole month.
Yeah, but I mean, like, we only went out like 4 times.
Oh, okay.
4 or 5 times.
Well, I was thinking if you did it at least once a week and then like leading up to the yard sale. And I know that in the past there's been like a lot of pizza bought on the day of.
Yeah, we bought
maybe
pizza the day
breakfast that
of.
morning.
Yeah, we did that.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Realistically then, using you said you went out 3 or 4 times. Let's just say average to feed students, depending on how many were with you, $330.
That was a little bit closer. It's kind of in the middle. I spent about $470. So
okay, so I wasn't that crazy.
yeah, so it's part of it too. But we, like I said, it didn't even like we make well over that, so it's worth it.
It's definitely worth it to be able to get those kids to camp.
Yeah,
Especially, the ones that come from backgrounds that they can't, like, without the help of that or some other type of fundraising, opportunity, they're not going to camp. So it's nice to, and something that you don't see a lot of times is not just asking for donations, but actually giving them the opportunity to work and earn it, which is really cool.
yeah, and they get to meet a lot of people in the church too that way, because most people that donate are from the church, so.
They get to meet Miss Betty and stuff.
Yeah, you get to meet Miss Betty. You get to walk in her house, see her paintings on the wall or whatever. See that thing that they bought at the yard sale last year.
Yeah. And they're donating it this year.
I actually did have that. I had somebody do that.
I bet. So I guess 26 minutes in, we should probably bring this back a little bit and say that this is still a redemption podcast. But definitely, I understand where like the stress piles on from working a yard sale and the weeks leading up to it, gathering all the stuff, dealing with people like a Miss Betty, that God bless her heart. She's just another obstacle in the way. You know what I mean? But
I think you may have to explain "bless your heart" to the non-Southerners.
Nah, they'll figure it out.
Do
If they
know?
don't, well,
If
it's like
somebody
trying to
says,
explain
"Bless your
Roll
heart."
Tide. They're not going to get that either.
All right. Well, let me just put it like this: if somebody ever says "bless your heart," it's usually not a compliment.
Yes, it's usually not a compliment, even though it might sound like
It's gonna sound just like butter on a roll, like good smooth, but like it is what it is.
You just went butter on a roll analogy. Oh man! So I guess we'll roll over and we'll talk about redemption a little bit now on the back half of this.
See what you did.
And last week we did have the episode. We were able to get that in with Mr. Travis Brown, and you guys have had the better part of a week to listen to that. It's gotten quite a few listens, so definitely appreciate you guys checking that out. I had a ton of fun talking with Travis, and he seems like a really cool dude. Like, if he was involved in the game right now, I think he would be one of those people that have people gravitate towards him, his personality, and his love for card games, and trying to bring all the cool elements of card games even to redemption, and not let it be a cheesy Christian knockoff, as he termed it.
Yeah, he was. I was talking to you before. I got about all the way to about 30 minutes left in the episode. It was a really easy listen, actually. Hearing you guys talk back and forth, it didn't ever feel like it was just like a cool conversation to listen to. Honestly, I was like super intrigued by it. So, good job last week for sure. I was slamming furniture around, but while you guys were having fun, but for the Lord.
Yeah, we all do what we do for the Lord. But if you haven't listened to the episode with Travis, make sure you go and check that out. I was sitting there after I got it done editing. It's like 2 a.m, and I'm like, what am I going to title this thing? And I came up with the story of an elder and 3 lions. But I regretted it instantly, like after I saw it, but I didn't want to change it afterwards. It should have just been an elder and 3 lions. That would have been cool. But I'm still working on my title ability. So whatever. Someone else that might need a little work on his title ability is Mr. Jaden. We'll roll over and tell you that he had a video come out last week that's titled "Nativity Isn't the Splash for Once." No cool title there, so I don't have to feel like I'm too far behind the curve for redemption content creators. But this is one where he's playing Nativity, as more of the focal point, and really, if anything, the Bethany Trio is splashed in there. Although I'm not really sure there is a deck out there with the Bethany Trio where it doesn't feel like they're just splashed in. The Bethany Trio is so easy to throw into things. So that's out there for you guys to go and check out. Jaden's been doing a lot of things with the Nativity, chamber combo. That video kind of just leans more into Nativity as a theme as a whole, which, somebody like you, Brad, probably hasn't gotten to encounter it too much. Not knocking you or anything, but just if you want to go and see kind of a little bit more about the theme, that's a good video to check out.
That may be the video I check out in preparation. I have not played against Nativity yet, so.
Have you played against Empty Tomb?
I haven't played Empty Tomb either.
Well, on Tyler Talks, the video that he put out this past week was Tomb Raider's debut, and this one is focusing on Empty Tomb, and he's got kind of a just a fun defense thrown in there that doesn't really complement the deck in the most efficient way. So it wouldn't be like a high end, like prepared for tournament type deck the way that he built it. But you can see the makings, the X's and O's are there of, how to make Empty Tomb work and make it work well. And then, just getting a defense that better supports that. He likes to try to showcase things that aren't getting played to say, hey, this card is still good. That's one of the things about Tyler. He's like, oh, hey, don't forget about this in some of his videos with the defenses that he plays and stuff.
Like, don't forget to play Delivered. Yeah.
Well, his this week was like Balaam and is it Balak that gets Balaam? And then you can I don't know. It's one of those old combo-y block things, but I watched that one. That one's really good if you want to know how Empty Tomb works. And word on the street from a few different people is that Empty Tomb may be one of the top decks in the meta, if not the top deck. The term BDIF has been thrown around a little bit, which stands for best deck in format. So I don't know if that's true or not, but if you want to find out, a good starting point might be checking out that video from Tyler.
So, outside of the actual deck, how would you rate Tyler's title versus Jaden's title?
Oh, Tyler's kicking his butt. Tomb Raider's debut, at least he titled his. But Jaden's had some really good titles.
Don't walk it back now.
No, I'm not walking it back. I'm just saying he has had some really good titles, but...
You're saying he's a much better player than Tyler.
Whoa. How did I get in the middle of this? Calm down. Whoa. I got friends on both sides of the aisle. Calm down.
I just wanted to, poke at it a little bit.
Man, bless my heart.
Bless your heart. I think you found the title of this episode, maybe.
Bless your heart. All right, the co-host has spoken. Bless your heart. Miss Betty says, bless your heart.
Miss Betty says, I like it.
Oh, man.
Who's Miss Betty and what's that to do with Redemption?
What? Miss Betty plays Redemption?
Maybe you should go introduce her. You need to go back and tell her how much you appreciated that weight set. And then you need to introduce her.
That weight set changed my life. She's going to be like, well, you're still fat. It wasn't because of its usefulness, ma'am. She's like, well, I can see not. Oh, man. But anyway, you know what's coming up, though? We're recording on Monday night for the editing to happen on Tuesday, and then the episode will drop on Wednesday. But what's going to happen in between recording and dropping the episode on the day that we have slated for editing is your boy Daniel, the creator, is going to be doing his next drop.
Let's go.
So
We're ready.
You're following along with the Redemption Reimagined project, there's going to be a Tuesday drop if he sticks to his schedule, which he has done a really good job of doing. So make sure you check that out.
I love the once a week, man, we're going to drop some of these cards. And then the anticipation for next week. Love it.
Yeah. It's really cool too, because it's one of those, like, you get to see not just not just what it looks like the end part of it, but I feel like you can kind of see, you can start to see after you have seen some of the designs, kind of how his mind's working and like how he's building out the thing. So even though you haven't seen all of the card types, and like we haven't seen, I don't guess, like evil enhancements or even good enhancements, but you can kind of imagine how those are going to look based on some of the other things that you've seen him do. And then so when it comes out, you can be like, oh yeah, I kind of, that's kind of what I thought they would look like. Or he could just wow you again and go a completely different direction. And oh yeah, that's really cool too. There's nothing bad with the drops. They're either in line and you're like, yeah, that's cool, or they're like, oh man, this is like even better than I expected. It's really good stuff. He did say that at some point he wanted to, he had a couple of different things that he asked people to vote on, and Redemption Reimagined is kind of what it landed on. But there was some other topics, so maybe once he gets done with this, like we get some more content from him showing some other projects regarding design, because dude is a killer at this stuff.
Yeah, the last time I went on there, it like asked for like a vote, like what do you want to see next? I don't know if he's still doing that.
Yeah,
People
I remember that, and I
see,
voted.
like,
and I forget what I voted for, but I would assume,
Yeah.
I think he mentioned that maybe whatever was the runner-up would get released this week. So we've got that to look forward to, and that's awesome. Another thing to look forward to is our friend James with the Chamber of Angels podcast. And the Chamber of Angels podcast, obviously, is something that we've pushed here on the podcast. We had him on to talk about, he had episode 1 go live where he is interviewing or talking with Demon Hunter 85 or Rob Smith about disciples and piloting those, and some of the ins and outs of how that theme works and how you can play that in today's meta. And so he has different ideas and things trying to target more of deck strategy and the more ins and outs of how you build certain decks, how you play certain decks, more strategy focused stuff. And one of the things that he said he wanted to do was record an episode about dominance and go all in about that. And I have a pretty good word on the street for the fact that there is a 3+ hour podcast, I believe it was, that was recorded on dominance with Mr. Jared Strauss, or Hymn. That's Hymn, because until my dying day, I will forever assume that you guys just hear HIM when I say that. So that's HYMN, hymn.
I'm pretty sure the N is silent, dude.
I know, but I'm stressing it because how else do you say it that way? He is him. Everybody's got pronouns going around today, so I'm not throwing pronouns. I'm just throwing his screen name out, okay?
Well, I can say this. Getting back up to speed with Redemption, I'll definitely be listening to the Chamber of Angels podcast and watching Rob M. and Jaden and whoever else is out there putting out videos so I can get back for the tournament season.
Yeah, better late than never to the tournament season.
Definitely late, but I'm going to steal all your ideas, whoever's putting content out there.
There you go. I mean, they wouldn't put it out there if they didn't want you to steal it, right?
That's right. But I'll take all the credit if it works. So,
all right. Well, the next thing that I've got for Redemption content that is new to the community is something that came out at 2 a.m. Central Standard Time last morning time of recording, because it wasn't the night, it was into the early morning hours. But Chad actually put this article out from Tyler regarding a peek behind the curtain of Israel's rebellion and then a play tester's perspective, part 1. So I'm guessing maybe there's more play testers that they're going to get a viewpoint from. That's all I can gather from part 1. But anyway, this article, I asked you if you had looked at it earlier. Did you have a chance to go and take a sneak peek at that?
I just kind of like flipped through it real quick. I didn't really get to actually read. I mean, you literally texted me like an hour before.
Hey,
so
I'm sorry, bro.
So I was kind of like, I guess I'll
don't tell people how we don't plan things around here.
No, just Just that article, man. You're like, hey, have you seen this article? I'm like, well, I assume you're probably asking me because you want to talk about it.
Yeah, because it contains these things called spoilers in there. There's some new cards from Israel's Rebellion. So I thought we could go over those and
Yeah, I read all the
focus on
cards.
those.
I just wasn't able to read all the commentary around it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's understandable. That gives you content that you can go back and watch or go back and read through later, right?
For sure.
All right, so Land of Redemption here. The first one comes by way of Rob Smith and him talking about how much he enjoyed the Clay Priest. And we've got Phineas. This guy has 2 brigades on him. He is clay and he is white. And this is one of those, I don't know if you've come in contact with it too much, but I mean, you probably have at some point with some of the spoilers that have come out. But do you see the blended, color box between the brigades? That looks so nice on these new cards. It can't be understated how just little touch-ups have really impacted card design here. But he's 10-9, dual brigade hero. He has 2 identifiers. He is a tabernacle high priest, and he is a wilderness hero. And the ability on Phineas is Phineas and Ferb. Why did that just pop in my head? There we go. You may banish an idol or curse. Enhancements from numbers used by this hero cannot be negated. That's a pretty strong thing right there. You may banish an idol or curse. So you come in, and as long as you're not negated as a hero, you can banish something. So like him coming in potentially off of a humble that's making him CBP, banishing an idol or curse, not worried about whether it can be negated. You could get rid of confusion of mind or something like that. Then enhancements from numbers used by this hero cannot be negated, which makes me want to see what new enhancements are coming out from numbers, because that's a pretty strong ability there. And there's no like meek flip to gain that or show a dominant to gain that. It's just on the card. So that'll be interesting to see how well that can be abused. Us players, we always like to try to find ways to abuse things. So how much can we abuse that CBN enhancements on that guy?
Well, he's probably definitely, part of that is he's probably not going to play first. He's a 10-9. So if somebody wants to come in and get initiative, they can definitely do that with him. If they don't want to get a cannot be negated enhancement right off the bat.
Yeah. That's why you almost wonder if there's an interrupt the battle from numbers. That would be pretty nifty.
Yeah, if there's that, then yeah, you in trouble.
I mean, for Rob to say this was his one of his favorite cards, or if not his favorite card from playtesting, I mean, it's got to pack a punch with something on the enhancement side that goes with it.
Yeah.
But if you scroll on down, then you can get to Jay Chambers, who is Flooded Red, who was involved in playtesting. And if you want, Brad, I'll let you take the reins on that one.
Yeah, this is a brown evil character, rebellious Israelites. These generic and wilderness identifiers. Opponent may discard a good card from hand. If they do not, you may activate an Old Testament curse from reserve. May ban to an evil wilderness human.
All right. I can already tell you that I love this card. Mm-hmm. Absolutely love this card. Now, he's 12-11. He's not getting initiative. But this almost feels like when, there was a couple of times where like you could, with the LOC Philistines when they first came out, and we were playing those heavily. You and I both were playing them for a little bit. You could almost get to where like you have removed the other side of the battle. You've won the battle, but you're still banding to get other abilities.
Yeah.
Imagine this guy comes out. They've got Storehouse. They've got Crowd's Lost Soul. They've got hand protection somewhere. So they can't discard a good card from hand. So if they do not, you can activate an OT curse from reserve. You go and activate Flying Scroll to take their character. You might potentially win the battle right there if they can't negate it. And then you can ban to an evil wilderness human, so then you can keep banding and potentially adding on abilities after they're removed from battle.
Flying Scroll making a comeback.
Yeah. Brown making a comeback. Brown's been kind of... Like, it was really good when we first got into the game because you had all those old classic cards that went with it. Haman's Plot, Gomer, which, I mean, you have that now, but
Broken cisterns.
sure. You're digging deep on that one, huh? But a lot of those cards have not seen a lot of play. I guess they've fallen out of favor just because Brown hasn't been touched much except for through LOC. And then LOC was mostly generating the theme around Meek Lost Souls and, soul hiding with the evil kings of Judah. So Brown, I mean, if you're playing that, that's okay, but I think GOC soul hiding cards are more effective. But Brown hasn't seen a ton of play for whatever reason. I could be wrong on the reasons. That's just my personal opinion on it. But Brown seems to be a favorite from the new set, Israel's Rebellion. So it's going to be really cool to see them getting played. And who would have thought, as a kid growing up, hearing the preacher say, open your Bible, turn to Numbers. Who would have thought Numbers would have such fun things in the future? Like that you get to, like, it's like Genesis, Exodus, exciting. Leviticus, Numbers, and then Deuteronomy, okay, like it just starts to lose the, like, wow intense, like, okay, I'm reading this progressing story. Obviously, you're still reading the story, but it turns into more of a, I don't know, you're kind of like on that edge of your seat reading Genesis and all the fast paced moving, and then you get into them establishing basically, the culture or whatever. So I never thought that I would be excited about things from Numbers like this, and that's pretty cool. It's also kind of like what LOC did for you when you read the begats at the beginning of Matthew, and you're like, he begot, hey, I know that. That's my homeboy. I played that card last season. It's really cool just to see, like, not as exciting parts of Scripture come to life.
That, and, I'll never look at Lazarus the same again, for instance.
Oh, yeah, because of his 17th century scholar status.
Yeah, that's what I think of every time I see him now. Like, that's the image in my head. So
yeah, and tell the truth. Every time you think of David, you think of Hard After God getting Angel of the Lord.
Dude, I titled a sermon David Hard After God one time. I mean, come on, let's go.
I remember you showed me that.
I was like, hey, check this out. It gives inspiration to all. So,
well, the reason that I went first so that you could go second was because I wanted to go third as we go back and forth on these cards. Because here we go. We've got a son of Jacob and a patriarch. We've got Issachar, burden bearer, and he's a 4/11. I'm just saying, I like high defense characters in blue. I don't know why. But opponent may underdeck an evil card in territory. If they do not, you may take a good Genesis card from deck. So they've got one evil character out and a curse. You're coming in, you're making them choose between getting rid of one of those. If they don't, you're getting a Genesis card from deck. Any Genesis card, good Genesis card, but any card. So you can go and get a hero that you might use later on, or you might have an interrupt and band enhancement in hand. So you can go and get a hero. You can go and get a dominant, because I know that the way that Tyler develops sets, I can already tell you the way that he picks up themes and things. He likes theme-specific dominants. He is a big fan of those. So I'm just assuming that we're going to see a theme-specific dominant potentially, because it says good Genesis card. I could see a good dominant there. You can get an enhancement, obviously. There's tons of Genesis covenants that could be useful as an artifact or a covenant. Obviously, you're going into battle to get this resource, so you wouldn't be able to use that immediately. But, I mean, for just a patriarch thrown together, or thrown at the end of a band that you've already been able to establish from the LOC cards, where you have Jacob that, sets up a good band. You've got Judah that bans, and you could just throw him in there to go and get another search. Like, resource accumulation with Genesis seems to be on the rise, but not just, it does it differently than like Disciples. Disciples have Matthew that blindly draws. There's not a ton of drawing with Genesis. It's more concentrated searches. And this is pretty cool, and I am super excited about this. Plus, this is a card that has never been created in the game. So, for the first time, we have this guy in the game. That's really cool. So, I'll quit drooling over it, Brad. What do you think about this card?
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, I was like, well, man, why don't you just play Jacob? But you're right. I mean, even if you're playing Jacob, you can flip because that one just has a good Genesis enhancement. And then if you ban to him, you can get a good Genesis card. So,
Well, actually, Jacob can grab any Genesis enhancement. Technically, for you guys out there that aren't as familiar with Genesis, he could grab like Death of Unrighteous if you were playing a defense that could utilize that. Just a true. Genesis enhancement.
Didn't think about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like versatility built into a lot of the Genesis cards. So, I'm not petitioning and trying to get included on the Chamber of Angels podcast that goes over Genesis or anything. I'm not doing that, but I'm just saying there's a lot of cool things you can pick up that people don't realize about Genesis.
Probably not getting love at first sight anymore, though.
No, but did you know that Covenant with Noah basically gives Genesis an I am creator that other decks don't have, right? Because they can just grab a hero. Well, did you know that it can also grab an evil character? It can grab a Genesis human. That's all it says. So you can actually use Covenant with Noah to get an evil character that has a Genesis reference. Because the artifact side just says you may take a Genesis human from deck or reserve if you control Noah. So if you control Noah and you build a deck that has Genesis and Noah, you can actually use Covenant with Adam to grab your evil characters to block from your reserve. So that's a tech for you right there.
Very versatile is what you're trying to say.
Very versatile. But anyway, Issachar Burden Bearer is a fun looking card. And it's got some really unique qualities to the artwork, because from some of the cards that I remember seeing in Chris's playtest deck at Mr. Classic that he accidentally used, I know that the artwork across the Sons of Jacob are kind of fit and paint, a similar picture for each one, like similar colors and things, and they're kind of in the same style. I don't know exactly if they're the same artist or whatnot, but they really make a good theme together from the artwork perspective. So I guess we'll let you handle the next one.
Well, we got my dad.
That's funny. I don't know my dad. Sorry.
Never heard of my
dad
dad.
Joke. Lack of dad joke. You get it.
Wow. This just took a turn, man. Whew, I wasn't expecting that. Here we go. My dad is a 1/2 white hero, wilderness theme. He says protect wilderness heroes from discard abilities. You may exchange this card with a wilderness hero from deck or play a lost soul from a deck. So versatility, check.
Booster draft, check.
Booster draft, yeah. These abilities aren't the complicated ones that we're used to seeing here, like in GOC and stuff. They're not like protect from all evil characters or, whatever. It's like, hey, protect wilderness heroes from discard abilities. Very specific there. But the ability to exchange for a wilderness hero or play a lost soul from the deck, that's probably a good card to put in your deck, I would say.
Yeah, and the fact you're getting initiative on top of that.
Yes. So, very
versatile.
Do I want initiative? Do I want to exchange? Do I want a lost soul? Do I want to protect from discard? I mean, all great things.
Sign me up, baby.
Sign me up.
That's pretty good.
There's a reason why my dad made the list.
Yeah. I'm guessing that he was definitely useful in some of the playtest, especially if we go back and we talk about some of those potential numbers enhancements. Maybe you have one and you want to make sure you play it first. I mean, a 1/2 number is nice. Now, that brings us to the next card, and this was a favorite of our boy Jeremy Chambers. And this is Sabbath Breaker. And this is a twist on an old favorite that was in gray. And it was like, if blocking, draw 3, discard after battle, I believe is the ability, or something along those lines. Now you've got dual brigade Sabbath Breakers. And this one is gray and orange, but I believe there's other Sabbath Breakers that have other secondary brigades, and gray is the kind of universal one across those. But anyway, he's 4/3. He is gray and orange. His identifiers are generic and wilderness. Generic for you type 2 players out there. And then X is the number of your wilderness humans. So if opponent has used a search ability this turn, Protect generic evil wilderness humans from opponent. That's pretty strong. And then you may draw X, limit 3, and X is the number of your evil wilderness humans. This card lets you get protection if the opponent has searched, so they have to create that. And then, on top of that, you get to do the draw that was already there on the previous one. And it's in Dual Brigade, so it's going to allow you to play some crossover, some enhancements between those two brigades. This looks like a fun card to do. And knowing that there's going to be other Sabbath breakers, that's pretty cool. What do you think about this one, Brad?
Yeah, see, I like it. I've never been the type of player to be able to utilize Sabbath Breaker well, if that makes sense. I've seen people do it in their decks. I'm like, man, this is like they play it so well. I can't play him well. But I mean, it looks like a
draw
great card.
3 guy.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been able to play him good in a deck.
The only time I recall ever playing Sabbath Breaker in a deck for real was when I was selling out for like creating card advantage on defense. So you have him, you have Emperor Vitellius, and there was one more you could do on defense that lets you. Damsel with a Spirit of Divination before it was changed. You could kind of work that in. So you could just have all your characters just draw and like not really care about losing the battle because you're trying to be aggressive on the other side as well. But yeah, I don't like relying on blind drawing as much as like concentrated, like I'm able to get this specific card that goes with this. This is what I need. Or, here's a couple of choices and you can choose then. But, I mean, it was okay. Vitellius was nice. I really liked him.
I mean, the fact of this card that he can also protect himself and others and draw, that's pretty big, though. That's a big difference from the previous Sabbath Breaker. And he may get initiative. A lot of good things with him.
And being Dual Brigade, I know that we're going to have roots to help with booster draft. But just throwing in an extra brigade on him, so now he's gray and orange here, that's going to be cool for booster draft. It gives you more options to try to match up enhancements on him.
Yeah.
While also having, the ability to protect himself if your opponent has done a search.
Mm-hmm. You may not even have to play a card, if they don't have an interrupter or a gate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you just throw him out there.
And you're not going to have, in booster draft, you wouldn't have to worry about woes, but I'm guessing he'll see a fair amount of woes.
Yeah.
I guess the next card, it is up to you to do it, so I'll let you run it here while we go back and forth. But dude, this one looks great.
Why don't you just go ahead and take this one? I'll take the last one.
Is there another one? Oh, there is another one. Okay. All right, well, I'll take this one. We've got blue, and this card is 4/1. It is a mono brigade enhancement, so it's going to get through your Goshen if you're worried about that. Just saying. And it's called Obedient to Joseph. And the ability is insane. Obviously, it takes a little bit of setup, but considering you reveal all hands and play all characters as part of the setup here, you could have more than one evil character in your hand and set it up to where it works. But if more than one evil character was played, after you reveal all hands, play all characters, if more than one evil character was played, discard an evil card. Cannot be prevented. Cannot be prevented. You know what that means, don't you, Brad? It works through Noah.
Mm.
Cannot be prevented.
You're always thinking about Noah.
He's always in the backdrop. Funny enough, Cloud of Witness Abraham has overtaken Noah for my favorite Genesis hero. And I never thought I'd see the day that was the case, but I really dig Cloud of Witness Abraham.
He's good, man.
He is very good. Negating neutral cards is so underrated right now.
Yeah.
But Obedient to Joseph is a true potential. Like, again, it's going to come up with, the ability to be able to trigger it by having more than one evil character played. But also, even if you don't have more than one evil character, so they play all characters, they put their heroes, their evil characters down, and now you maybe have a board wipe that wipes out all evil characters on the opponent's side. Maybe you get them to play their evil characters, and then you hit them with the flood. Who knows?
Both fair points. Or, another one is choose blocker.
Yep, there you go.
Something like that as well.
And
so there's a lot that you can do with that.
It'd be really nice, wink, wink, it'd be really nice if Genesis had to choose the blocker. I'm just saying, if you could fit that in, that'd be really cool.
I'm pretty sure there's a way to fit that in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a way to fit it in too. But this is a really cool card, and not lost on me. Again, if you know how much I've played Genesis, I've played it a fair amount. But you have Joseph the Dreamer, and Joseph the Dreamer says that you can take a Genesis 37 through 50 card from deck, cannot be negated. So if you play him, he's a 2/2. He's going to help you get initiative at times. Those are good numbers for trying to get initiative. This is a Genesis 37 through 50 card. So there's another card that he can fetch for a potential enhancement that can turn into a battle winner part, depending on the setup portion of it. So I'm really stoked on this card. I like the artwork. The borders for blue are awesome, by the way. Best borders in the game besides, I think, Clay. I really like Clay's border, too, which if you scroll up, you can see that on the Clay and White Priest, Phineas. And maybe I like that one because it was the border color that we used on that card that I made for Tyler for the Christmas card swap that year. But Obedient to Joseph is awesome, and it's one of the cards that's going to make me buy Israel's Rebellion at Nationals, even if we don't have roots in them already. I just got to get my hands on the blue stuff,
Sounds about right.
I've waited this long. I'm not waiting anymore after Nationals. So I guess we'll look at the last one here, and you can take that one and run with it, Brad.
We got an evil enhancement, and this was by Jaden, was the one that tested favorite theme Egyptian meal. It's called Famished. It's a pale green 2/4 evil enhancement. It says if used by a pharaoh, interrupt the battle. You may discard the top 3 cards of a deck and did I say and play an enhancement.
Yeah.
Interrupt, discard 3, and play an enhancement.
So basically, come in, you assemble a band that I'm assuming that the abilities on these evil characters are going to be to mill your deck. So they do some milling in a band, and then they've got high numbers. You play a battle winner. They interrupt the battle. Just assuming, spitballing here, I don't know. I don't have inside scoop on this theme or anything, but I assume that you're going to have a high number band, give up initiative. They play a battle winner. You interrupt because you played this on your Pharaoh. Discard 3 more cards from their deck and play an enhancement. That seems pretty good. But man, can you imagine what it's going to be like having a legit mill deck that doesn't have to compromise its ability to rescue and things? Like give up a lot of power to do the mill stuff if they build the mill stuff into the power level of the deck.
Yeah. See, I'm one of those players that I actually liked playing Egyptians, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I thought they were, even though they did give up some to be able to mill, I thought they were strong enough to still hang as a good defense. I never got as much into the New Testament gold that mills. I tried it. I just couldn't I couldn't make it work. But that could also be because at that time, people were going through their entire deck in one turn, so you couldn't really mill anything. But just seeing this Egyptian stuff is it's making me pretty interested in thinking that out of this Israel's Rebellion, the Egyptians might be the one I gravitate to.
Yeah. It makes me
without
wonder.
anything else.
It makes me wonder if this card was created with potential multiplayer games, like teams, multiplayer booster, if it was built with that in mind and the ability to where you may discard the top 3 cards of a deck. Mm-hmm. Or how cool would it be if the Egyptians gained a benefit from, not crazy to where you're trying to mill your entire own deck, but what if you could mill your own deck and gain a benefit for it? That'd be a pretty cool element.
Well, if you're playing a mill deck and you have the cross, but your deck
that was my next thought is if the opponent's already decked out, you need to deck yourself out. I'll pitch 3 more cards.
Yep.
I mean, The Cross is probably going to love mill decks.
Yes. Which is, New Testament Gold. I think that was part of releasing those at the same time.
Yeah,
Trying to,
potentially.
trying to mill their deck and try to get a cross win. Good cards.
Definitely good cards. And I guess one more that we can go over is in the spoiler channel. Just because it's so good, I don't want it to get passed over. But it was one that was spoiled since we recorded last, and it's called Potential in the Land. And this one was shared outside of Discord. I believe it was on Your Turn Games, but this one, Potential in the Land. Now, this is a Tri-Brigade card, so it's blending blue, clay, and then white. And I love how the transition on the borders look on this. And it's some more Gustave Doré artwork, which is the guy famous for the artwork on the 2016 and 2020 and 2023 National Son of God promos, to put context with that. But Potential in the Land, it's blue, it's clay, it's white, it's territory class. I mean, if you want a card to check every box of what it can do, I mean, this might be the card for you, okay? There's unlimited potential in the land, okay? Untapped potential. Sorry. But it's got an X identifier, and the X identifier is the number of your wilderness heroes and or Sons of Jacob. So, Sons of Jacob getting a little love here too, along with the wilderness theme for this card. But it says select up to 2, and then it lists out the options. So, select up to 2, negate an evil or neutral card. Again, it's territory class, so you can target that in territory. Underdeck up to X cards from hand to draw an equal number. A little bronze laver type action going on here. Or play a Lost Soul from a deck. So this thing right here is insane. And I saw all the words on it, and I took the card. I had it pulled up on my phone, and I handed it to my wife because she will not play Redemption anymore. Like, she dabbled when we first did it, trying to play with my son, Keegan. Obviously, you know Keegan. Most people probably know Keegan by name now on the podcast, but she was like, no, I can't do it. It's too complicated. It's too confusing to understand what cards are trying to do. They're trying to do too much, and it's a fair complaint. So I handed her this card, and I said, just read over this and tell me if you easily understand that or if you think that's doing too much. She read it, and she's like, no, that makes perfect sense. Here's you a bunch of options, and you choose 2. I was like, okay, thanks. So that was my first thing, is like the way that they worded the ability, because a lot of times there's a cost benefit value to the way that the special ability is worded, so that you do this to do that, even though both of the things are a benefit. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's hard to come up with one off the top of my head, but I feel like that's a lot of things. Maybe people out there listening don't understand, but I can't come up with a great example off the top of the old dome. But this one, allowing you to negate an evil or neutral card in territory, is insanely strong right now. So they've got the cross up stopping your dominance. Boom, I'm going to come in, I'm going to negate that neutral card. You know, they've got Lost Soul crowds over there, and I want to play something that's going to target their hand. You know, like a dominant, like Mayhem or something. Boom. I can negate an evil neutral card. I can negate your crowd's Lost Soul. Now, I can play Mayhem and make you shuffle your cards too. That type of thing. But then you have the ability to underdeck up to X cards from hand to draw an equal number. I've got 3 dead cards in my hand at this moment in the game. Play this card down, I get to underdeck those and draw 3 more. Cool. Play a Lost Soul from a deck. It doesn't have to be the opponent. It could be your deck if you need to get a certain ability on the table for the board state. If you want a crowd's Lost Soul out first turn to help you protect against Matthew or something like that. Or for Soul Gen the other way. Super versatile card. Insanely versatile card. I love it. What do you think?
I definitely agree. I was kind of wondering about the colors now. Like, I wonder if they intentionally do them in like alphabetical order. Is that like a thing? Like blue, clay, white. Just
you know what?
on every card?
I don't know for sure if that is what they are doing. That is a good question. A good observation. And it reminds me of the observation I made at my first nationals when I got a Serpent national promo, and they had rearranged the colors on it And I believe they might have rearranged those into alphabetical order as well, because I believe the crimson jumped to the top.
It just, can't say for sure about, whenever we sort our cards, you mentioned it one time, and I started doing this too. You sort by the first color on the card, and that's where you put it, because if they have multiple colors.
Yep.
But I wonder if they've always kind of been in the same order or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do know that for me it makes sense, instead of trying to keep dual brigade of these two brigades together and all of that. It's just simpler to go first color and roll with that. So this, I would put it with all of my blue stuff. And then if I need this, I see, oh, I want to go to that card. I know it's with blue because it's the first color on it.
Yeah.
But Potential in the Land is a really strong card, and it has a lot of uses. And for all three of those brigades, so this is a good booster draft card. Absolutely a good booster draft card. And I think seeing the card design add in the element of thinking about booster draft, even if they're not intentionally, overly intentionally doing it. I mean, it doesn't hurt for it to be well set up for that. So I'm really digging that. I guess one more bit of news kind of on card design. We did have the Roots contest come to a close since we last recorded the podcast. And so the 3 cards that the community has voted on to include from the classic pool of cards and bring them into the new era of Redemption and have them be part of the game's future is going to be the Angel Under the Oak, then Emperor Vitellius, I mentioned him earlier, and then also Legion. Those are the 3 cards that the community voted on, and those are going to be included in the Root set when that set is finalized and sent to print. So that's cool to know. It's nice to see the community all agreed that Angel Under the Oak was that important to the game. I'm also kind of glad that, even though it's kind of fun to joke about, someone else brought this up, is that Angel Wars included some characters that were not actually in the Bible. And I know that card designers are trying to make a concentrated effort to do things that are included in the Bible and keep it as close to that source, as true to the source material as possible. And I know that everybody talked about Q, and we mentioned that on the episode with Travis Brown. He asked me if I had my playset of Q. You might not have got to that part in the podcast, but Q, the little imp that converted and all of that. There was a strong chance he was going to win based on popularity, and I'm kind of glad that he did not, for that reason, that we can have cards that are more in line with the source material.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. That'll bring us to unofficial tournaments, and these unofficial tournaments that we're talking about is the Zoom Discord Invitational and then the Lackey Grand Prix. Lackey Grand Prix is in its 10th iteration. The Zoom Discord is in Series 12, and the final round pairings for that are live right now. And currently, E-Man is in the lead, Emmanuel, and he is playing Card Game Fanatic. And I believe the winner of that will end up winning Series 12. So that's what's going on there. And then Nike Grand Prix, round 2 pairings will wrap up on Tuesday. We're recording Monday night, but they'll wrap up on Tuesday. And when you're hearing this, round 3 pairings will be live. So if you have signed up for those, especially the Lackey Grand Prix, I saw that apparently had some issues with people not being able to get their games in or not getting their games in. So if you sign up for that, I know I had one where I was not able to get games in because work got crazy. But if you're able to do that, make sure you get your games in. It's 1 game a week. There's got to be a time you can find if you chose to sign up for it. Just try to do your best to get those games in, because I really think it's really important for the community to have those type of tournaments, and we don't want people to get soured on having games that fall through and then end up not signing up, to where we have fewer and fewer participants, to where it kind of dwindles down. I mean, I think right now they're running with 20 participants in the Lackey Grand Prix right now, which is a strong, healthy number. It'd be nice to keep that and keep moving forward with positive momentum. So get your games in. That's all I'm saying. Brad, sign up for the Lackey Grand Prix and then get your games in.
One of these days.
I mean, I guess you can still brag that you're only Lackey Grand Prix. You made it to the finals, right?
Yeah. I can't remember if I played another one after that.
I thought you switched up and went to the Zoom.
I
after
know
that?
I did. I probably did. It's been so long. I don't remember.
All right. So I guess we can also talk about some official tournaments. Well, I guess not some. There was one official tournament, and I have the results for that for the Northeast Regional Tournament. And then I've also got some information on the deck that won that was kind of an under the radar, was not necessarily expected to do as well as it did. But I've got that for you now. Let's join together and hope that there's not any any names that I'm going to struggle on, because I'll apologize up front. If I could mess up a name, I'm going to mess up that name. But this was for the Northeast Regional, and it was hosted by Rob M. And this was on June 2nd and 3rd. And sealed deck was won by Mr. Ben Hull. In second was Charles Loria. And then in third place was Emmanuel Echevarria. In booster draft, first place was Mark Valake. Second was Ron Sias, who drove over from Michigan. So nice to see him jumping in and traveling and enjoying himself there. And then third was Dan Rex. In Type 1-2 player, that was won by Mr. Ben Hull. So again, he came in first there. In second was Mark Valake. And third was Emmanuel Echevarria. In Type 2 two-player, Emmanuel won that one. Rob M. came in second, and John Michelesian came in third. In teams, there was 2 teams involved. John Michelesian and Emmanuel paired up to beat Mark Valake and Ben Hull. So John and Emmanuel got first. Mark and Ben got second for teams. And that is the results for the tournament there. And then I also have some details from Mark Valake on the decks. He said that the Type 1 two-player deck that won, the first place deck, was piloted by Moravia Redemption Guild's very own Ben Hull. And background on that, he said, Ben was originally going to play Type 1 Classic, but since everyone signed up for Type 1 two-player, he switched to that the day of the event. He assembled a deck based off the Your Turn Games Contender deck, New Testament Gold, and Thieves. He modified the Contender deck by swapping out some cards between the reserve and main deck. He also traded out some cards to add Emmaus Road, Sheol, and Three Woes. He even ran the New Jerusalem in the deck because he doesn't have the Second Coming yet. In his games, he had 3 wins where he got to 5 souls. He had 1 timeout win and 1 tie against Mark, who kept a shred of dignity by not letting his people beat him outright. In addition to being a skillful player, he had an advantage in that his deck countered a Matthew Meta tournament. Mark's second place deck ran Disciples and Thieves. Emmanuel's third place deck also ran Matthew, as did Matt Sinclair and others. Ben defied all conventional wisdom by running essentially a mono brigade offense and defense, taking the speed away from an opponent's Matthew. The Highwayman, etc., coupled with speed from his own Thieves, helped him to have an edge in outpacing his opponents. And then he said, in honorable mention, because we've mentioned her a couple of times, his wife, Jalissa, placed a very narrow 4th, being only 1 game point behind 3rd place. And she was extremely happy with her play and was able to pilot Jay's Flood and Drought deck against various decks and play styles than she is used to facing and she is unfamiliar with. And she is practicing rigorously for Nats and is eager to develop as a top competitive player there. In the 5 rounds of play, she did not face Mark, which he is thankful for because she may have knocked him out of 2nd place. So that gives you a little bit of a look into that. But a Your Turn Games Contender deck modified with a few cards, a few changes, still running New Jerusalem, went to the Northeast Regional and pulled it out. And that was by Mr. Ben Hull. So congratulations, Ben, on that. And what a cool kind of synopsis there to give us the background that he flipped to it last minute and just built it based on the Contender deck and made a couple changes. That's pretty cool.
Very impressive.
So if he can take a Contender deck and win, Brad, you can take a Contender deck and win, right?
Yeah, no. Really, in reality, what I'm probably going to do is watch Redemption with Jaden take one of those decks. Probably whichever episode I watch and play that.
Hey, I did that last year.
How'd you do?
I actually did really well. I took he built a deck that was Peaceful Patriarchs, actually. And I played that and had the best game of my life against Jeremy and the Alabama, I think it was our, not state tournament, but I think it was the Southeast Regionals. It was really, really good. And I enjoyed that. And that's kind of gotten me on it kept me really in tune with the Genesis stuff. Because I had started trying to move away from it, and it pulled me back in a little bit. And that's what I ended up playing a version of that at Nationals. In addition to the official categories at the Northeast Regional, they also did Type Half. And in Type Half, Charles Loria came in first, Emmanuel came in second, and Mark came in third. And then, I don't know if you've seen it, but they had some really awesome sleeves floating around. They had a play mat with the angels from GOC, some of the card design elements that included some of those comic angels. That play mat, it looks really cool, but that went to the winner of Type 1, which was Ben. And then those sleeves were done with a drawing, and Jason won those. But sounds like a really good time they had there at the Northeast Regionals.
Yeah, pretty solid.
I know that, again, this week there's only one big tournament coming up, but that is going to be the Indiana State Tournament, and that's going to be hosted by Andy Fish at Popcorn Christian Church, and that is going to be June 9th and 10th in Springville, Indiana, and you can get that information from the Cactus Game Design website under tournaments, or you can reach out to Andy directly, but definitely excited to see another tournament in Indiana. I believe Indiana last year is a tournament that they had a state tournament, but Jay came down from Michigan and helped them host that so that they could have that event. And now Andy has taken the reins, and it looks like he's hosting it solo this year. So that's growth, and that's what the community needs to see, is growth and stuff like that. So that's really cool. But moving right along, talking about the road to nationals here. Take a stab. Don't think about it too hard. How much time do you think we have before nationals?
Well, if I wasn't looking at it,
I guess that does ruin it, huh? See,
I would say we're in on or around 50 days away.
We are. Right now we're sitting at 52 days. 51 will tick away tomorrow on Tuesday, and then by the time this releases on Wednesday, we will be at 50 days remaining until nationals. That's 50 days for you, Brad, to come into this competitive meta, pick it up, figure it out, and be ready to compete at nationals maybe. You're still trying to sweet talk the wife, I believe, into going. So there's still an outside chance that we get Brad to nationals this year.
You know, it's a slow process. You know, you got to kind of, it's one step at a time, trying to work your way into Knoxville. But, you know, we're getting one step closer, I think. So it's possible. I may see some of y'all at nationals.
Man, I cannot wait for you to see nationals. Nationals is such an awesome thing. Like, I didn't really believe, like, as deeply in the community aspect that everybody's always talking about until, like, you get to see it in person. And it lives up to the hype. So that'll be really cool getting to watch you experience that if you are able to make nationals. So we can still keep hoping, praying, and believing that you can make that happen.
We're going to do our best for sure.
But I guess we can talk about some kind of threshing floor-ish news that pertains to the podcast. Obviously, we had a really good episode last week with Mr. Travis Brown. You guys seem to have enjoyed that, listening to that. But in addition to that episode, and just before that episode actually went live, we crossed over 6,000 downloads. And this does not include any type of listens or streams on YouTube. It is just through the podcast apps or listening on a browser through the website. But we have crossed over 6,000 downloads. We are now sitting at 6154, and we are recording episode 61. So we are averaging over 100 per episode, and we didn't get close to 100 on those early episodes. Like, it took a little while to build up a decent following, but averaging over 100 listens per episode, I don't know how great that is in the grand scheme of things for other people, but I feel like that's really that's really nice to know that we're holding that line and at least meeting or exceeding that most weeks. So that's really cool. And I couldn't do it without you, Mr. Co-host. You've been here all along the way in the early days. I mean, you kind of skipped in the middle, but now you're back. You have a part in this. So, what was it? Give yourself a round of applause, Jaden.
Oh man,
what was her name? Was it Miss Betty?
Miss Gibby.
Oh yeah, the Gibby and Night trickery lady.
I just want to say to all the fans out there of the threshing floor, we started from the bottom,
but now we here. Oh yeah.
Just kidding. That was ill timed.
Yeah. In addition to that, we also tentatively scheduled our first Threshing Floor Live to be this past Thursday, which would have been June 1st. And we started this episode talking about the fundraiser that you did with the yard sale and how busy you were. So that right there is essentially the nuts and bolts of why that did not happen. So that didn't happen due to that. I think we might try to do it again. At some point, we've got to at least get the first one going, right?
Yeah, I think we can make it happen this week. I
All right.
feel good about it.
So we want to tentatively say that we're going to shoot for doing that Thursday evening.
Thursday evening.
A more exact time will come up that day, but we'll figure that out and we'll share that. But I also sent over the information to Mr. John Early and Covenant Games to re-up our sponsorship or their sponsorship of the podcast for the next year. So we are proud to say that we are going to continue that. I know that I've said that before, but I just want to keep reiterating that. I definitely want to, even if it seems like I'm going out of my way to do that, because I'm willing to go out of my way to say thank you to John for helping make sure that the podcast continues to be a long-term platform for the Game of Redemption. I mean, we're in it this far, 61 episodes. I don't see any reason to stop now, right?
That's right. And you guys made a really good point on the last episode, just talking about sponsoring each other and, how the retailers and stuff are just having everybody's back, whether it's the website or the podcast or, all these things. It's really cool to see that. So
yeah,
keep up the good work, guys.
Definitely really cool. And it shows that whole community feel that everybody's always talking about and why they gravitate towards this game and why they stick around this game, why they step away, they put their cards in a shoebox and then at the top of the closet, and then 12 years later they dig them out and they're like, oh, I wonder if there's still a thing, and then they fall right back in line. And the game is what the game is. For all its flaws, it still has one of the best communities for something that you do, like a card game or even like a video game community. The community that this game fosters is really strong. And maybe it's just the fact that everybody connects on a deeper level because of the shared and common faith across most people that play the game. But even when someone's not a faith-based believer, I would assume that anyone, and I would hope that anyone that comes into the community, even if they don't share the same faith, or maybe they're not a religious person and they haven't found that part of life yet, it hasn't been part of their life at that point, I feel like they probably still have a good feel, a good sense of the community and the welcoming nature of the community. I would hope that would be the case anyway. Anyway, I'll quit rambling. I know we talked a lot about the yard sale business and introduced you to Miss Betty and all that, and maybe Miss Betty will one day play Redemption, but she probably won't. She needs to be redeemed for that, for bumping up that that weight set. But we can offer her a little bit of grace on that. And we don't have any crazy big topic this week. We just wanted to hit that recent news and go over that. Brad looks like he's about to fall asleep right now, so I think
it's about 11:30 here. It's about 2 hours past my bedtime.
Yeah, so I think we better let him go right here, and we'll catch you next week on the live. We'll talk about some potential future episodes. I've got a lot of cool things on top of the old dome as far as future episodes. Some of those Brad don't even know, so maybe we'll get his reaction to some of those ideas if we can pull that together, pull enough strings and make that live happen on Thursday.
I like it.
And we'll talk to you next time. Peace. All right, guys, that's going to do it for episode number 61 of the Threshing Floor Podcast. As always, want to thank you guys for tuning in and listening to the podcast. Want to invite you to hang out with us Thursday if we're able to make that happen. You know, it's our first one, so I don't know about all of the, what platform we're going to use yet and trying to make that happen. But hopefully we can wrangle that and make it happen. And we can see you Thursday hanging out and talking about the Threshing Floor Podcast, all that might be coming down the road that we have planned or pseudo-planned, maybe getting some of your ideas. We'll just kick it and hang it. So we'll see you there. Peace.